Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Everything is Fine podcast. I am your host, Sean Wilson.
And I'm your host, Matt Ebersol.
And this week we have a very special guest and we are tackling a very special topic. We are continuing our Marvel Deep Dive series, and today we'll be discussing Phase 2. Our guest will be on shortly, but before that time, we have just a bit of housekeeping and news to take care of. As most of you have been paying attention to the upload schedule, last week was not Marvel. Last week was the first of the How Are You's little segments we decided to do in each other's off weeks, just to help mitigate our busy summer schedules with all the work we're doing. I performed last week, and I gave you my analysis on pop culture / fiction's greatest postal delivery systems to, I think, much success. That was very fun to edit and very fun to do the research for. The Google document was a nightmare. But we had that episode last week, and next week I believe Matt is going, if you want to tease us a little bit about what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, well, first I want to comment on Sean's How Are You. It was not what I was expecting, because we are giving each other complete creative freedom on this. So I was not involved in the process of Sean making his, and nor will he be involved in mine. We're giving each other total independence with these, because these are solo projects. We get a week off, or at least one does. But I wanted to congratulate Sean. That was a great kickoff to the series. Very interesting concept. I had, when he first pitched the idea to me, I was like, I'm really not sure what you mean by that. But then when he started explaining it to me, and he started explaining it to me, and he started thinking like, well, what if I did this and this and this? I'm like, actually, you can make something really interesting about that. So I want to congratulate you. That was a great first episode. Mine, I don't want to give it away completely, but as many of you know, if you're friends with me in real life and you know me in real life, you know I'm a massive sports fan. And specifically, I'm a huge New York Mets fan, the baseball team in the MLB. I'm not going to say exactly what it's going to be about, but baseball is going to be a major talking point of my first How Are You? And that's all I'm going to say. I'm very excited to share with you what I have planned. And I'm very giddy thinking about it, because it's something that I've been eagerly waiting for. But yeah, it's going to be baseball related. It's not like, the MLB. It's not a Mets episode, I'll say that. But be on the lookout. It's going to be fun, and I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you all enjoy it. So next week, that will be Sunday, June 28th, I think.
I believe
27th. Yeah. So Sunday, June 27th, my first How Are You will be released, and I hope you listen and enjoy it. But for today, as we said, we're back on the main podcast schedule. We're doing Phase 2. We're continuing our series that we started 2 weeks ago. But before we get into that, obviously, as always, we have news of, I guess, the past 2 weeks, although we're going to try to keep it as recent as we can. We are recording this about 2 days before release, so if there's anything that happened either the day of or the day before the day this is posted, we apologize. We were not recording at the time when that happened. But Sean, take it away with your headlines for the episode.
I will, and just before I do want to say, on the topic of your How Are You, I know that we normally don't cover sports here, but I will say Matt's idea really has some interesting implications to it, and I, not even being that big of a sports fan, am very excited for this, so please give that a listen, even though it's a bit of a departure from theme. I think that it's going to be a fantastic bit of work that Matt's going to put out. But with today's headline...
Thanks, buddy.
I'm going to advertise it, of course I am. With today's headlines, a bit of a weird kind of smattering across all avenues of what I have. First things first, there has been talk in an interview that was conducted with James Gunn very recently, where he expressed the interesting desire to see, however convoluted it may be, he thinks it would be very cool to do an MCU-DCU crossover film of some kind, given now that the MCU plays around with the multiverse a lot. Nothing's in the works, but he said that he would find it very interesting to do something along the lines of bringing the two sets of heroes together for a one-off of some kind. I don't know if that scares me or not.
Yeah, I mean, he is... The new Suicide Squad movie looks really interesting, and I'm interested to see what he can bring to that. Um, I mean, it's I feel like it's kind of a fever dream. I don't know if it's ever actually going to happen. I feel like it's just James Gunn saying, "Oh, maybe." I mean, could it happen? Absolutely, because the way that Hollywood works now, anything is possible. Because we just saw, we've seen so many blockbuster movies and blockbuster franchises over the past decade plus. So I don't say that nothing is possible because obviously anything is in the movie industry nowadays. But I don't know. I mean, would I see it? Absolutely. Would it be good? That's another story.
Yeah.
But James Gunn has a fantastic vision with these superhero films that I would trust him at least to deliver a product that is at least enjoyable. It's just a matter of if it's necessary because I feel like Marvel's doing fine on its own. I feel like DCEU is actually starting to maybe get some traction with the Snyder cut. I think people are starting to get more into it, but who knows if they're even going to continue past that? I have no idea. Yeah, interesting story though. That's something to definitely talk about.
I personally almost want this to stay a fever dream because the tones and power levels of both sets of media are both ridiculously in the opposite directions. I kind of don't want to see one be polluted by the other or one raise the expectations in a bad way only to be met with disappointment for the other. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But that's that. I figured that would be worth putting on everyone's radar.
No, totally, yeah.
IGN recently came out and gave its official review of the new Pixar film Luca. And they said they gave it a 7 out of 10, and they said that it was a wonderful summer movie. Although the strangeness and uniqueness of the animation style does take away from it from them. And they said that it felt like one of their more simplistic Pixar films, which Pixar can do anything good. But I think we've come to expect this level of creativity and deeper meaning from Pixar films that this summer romp, at least in IGN's eyes, was worthy of a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think this movie is not one of those premiere access movies on Disney Plus. Like you can just watch it, which I love because the premiere access is really annoying in the sense you have to pay $30 extra to watch a movie that you could just wait 3 months and watch it for free. Luca right now is free to watch on Disney Plus, which I think is awesome. To piggyback off IGN's review, everyone else is also kind of in that boat. IMDb, which is all user ratings, there's only a couple thousand so far because the movie literally just came out the day that we're recording this. But right now it has a 7.9 out of 10 based off of user reviews. And on Metacritic, it has a 71 out of 100. So they're all hovering around that 7-ish out of 10 range, which is very good. If someone were to give a movie that I made a 7 out of 10, I'd be thrilled. But I do agree that Pixar, unfortunately, we hold them to a higher standard now just because of how good they've been for so long. So if they make a mediocre movie, we somehow we have it programmed to be like not good enough. We always ask for more. I am though very happy now. This is the third straight Pixar movie, if I'm not mistaken, to be wholly original. And I love that.
Yes.
They're going away from sequels. They're building new franchises and they're building new ideas. Because we had Onward and then we had Soul. Now we have Luca. We have 3 straight original movies with new content. And if this continues to track, as I really liked Onward and I really liked Soul, and apparently this is really good, we're gonna have 3 straight really good original movies. So maybe this is what Pixar needs. Maybe they need to start branching away from the sequels. And if you want to learn more about Pixar and its long, illustrious history, feel free to check out our second episode of Season 1, where we talk about Pixar.
Shameless plugging is shameless, Matt. Um, moving on from Pixar, so last weekend was E3, and a lot of people went into E3 with high expectations and high hopes of hearing some things about their favorite games franchises and some new projects that are getting brought up. And with the games industry in a weird spot right now, I'm sure that everyone had different sets of opinions. Some notable things that came out of the E3 showcase across most of the brands. Breath of the Wild 2 was announced. Its title was kept a secret for fear of it spoiling events of the game itself, which, why would you do that in the title of a game? But it's been announced. It's happening. It's happening in, I believe it was 2024. I could be wrong.
Mm.
But Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid has gotten its next installment after nearly, I believe, 15 years.
Yeah,
Metroid
that's big.
Metroid Dread, and it looks amazing. I'm not even
Yeah,
the
no,
hugest
that's
Metroid
big.
fan, and I'm
Neither
excited
am
for
I.
Metroid Dread. But Metroid Dread was
Yeah, no,
announced.
that should be really good. Again, not a huge fan of Metroid, but I have respect for those games, and I know that the fan base has been waiting for a new game for a very, very long time. So good for them.
Yeah, very good for them. They have also announced Mario Party Superstars, and it is a remastering of some of the greatest mini games and a remastering of some of the most fan favorite boards across
That's
the entirety
cool.
of the franchise. So that's
That's
going to be
cool.
really cool to see. It's going to be old school rules, it's going to be old school boards, and old school mini games. So just a mix of the greatest hits.
Wow.
I'm very excited
That's
for
really
that.
cool. I like
Um,
that.
we also had our next Smash character announced, and I think that no one wanted this guy. Not saying that it was like people hated it, but I for one certainly can think of zero people who wanted or guessed that this would be our next Smash Pass fighter. And it only fills me with dread for the characters I wanted to make it. But Kazuya from Tekken made it into Smash, and I've played the Tekken games. They're another 2D Japanese style fighter, and I think that no one cared about Ryu. So why the hell did people think they were going to care about Kazuya? I don't
Mm.
understand. Kazuya is not even a central character of Tekken. He's kind of just a character's grandfather you play as in one game. Or not grandfather, father that you play in one game. And I just it's such a weird choice to me that I'm just not excited. I don't care. I'm still waiting for Crash, Spyro, or Sora. I'm saying that. I now
Well,
think
yeah, I thought because isn't there only one left? Like, wasn't this the last one, or is
there's
that not
one
correct?
more. There's one more left, and given that they're all humanoid fighting game characters, my hope of Sora has mostly gone out the window, and I'm
Hmm.
sad about that. Because if anyone deserves it, it should be Sora.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I was looking on Twitter because I also saw that it was Kazuya, and I was like, interesting, because I was hoping it would be Crash. That's the one
yeah,
that I really, really wanted, because Crash Bandicoot is a franchise that my brother played all of those games, and I always enjoyed watching him play them. And then I also dabbled in some of. I never really got into like the many of the mainline games, but all like the spin-off ones, like those were like loads of fun. Spyro, I actually played also a good amount as well, so he would have been really cool too. But the one Twitter was hoping and praying, but I knew it would never happen because it almost seems too good to be true. Was Chief, but that's never going to happen.
yeah, they're not gonna put
I
Chief in
will
there.
be shocked if Master Chief if Master Chief ends up in Smash Brothers, then I'll do a how are you on like something really really stupid. Like I don't know what, but like I'll throw that out there. I think it is almost impossible that Master Chief ends up in Smash Brothers. I really don't think it's going to happen.
I sadly will say the same sentiments about Sora at this point. We've seen nothing but humanoid fighting game characters, and we don't care about half of them. And they've also used up like 3 slots from a Square Enix property, so they're not going to get another one on there because then they'll just be accused of corporate favoritism. I think Sora might have been killed off at this point, which is frustrating
Yeah.
because I don't care about any of the Smash Pass characters at all, really. So
And
yeah,
Steve.
I mean, Steve was interesting. I thought it was a joke when I first saw that. I'm like, that's cute. Who's the real fighter? No, seriously, who's the real fighter? And then there was Steve. I don't know why.
Oh,
Steve
that
also.
is the real
It
fighter.
also looks so weird when you look at the lineup. You have like Min Min, you have Pyrrha, whatever her name is from Xenoblade. You have Kazuya now, and then you just have Steve from Minecraft. I'm like, what? Why? Why are you here? This is the wrong room, sir. But you have that. So I'm really just kind of hoping that Crash makes it on the final slot because that's the most likely, I think, most reasonable at this point. So yeah, but there's that. That's mostly all of my E3 notable things. A lot of Nintendo, but final. No, I've got 2 headlines left. Sorry. Currently, right now, and granted, by the time this video goes live, the submissions will be over. But Wizards of the Coast is running the Ultimate Dungeon Masters Challenge at this current moment. It began yesterday, for us, yesterday was Thursday the 17th of June, and competitors had from noon Pacific time till noon on Sunday Pacific time to submit a challenge to Wizards of the Coast as a large pool of entries. The challenge is to create a complex trap using the rules and regulations from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Approved traps that gain attention of the judges will be submitted into a contestants lineup, and then starting next month on July 17th, all contestants that are gathered, which will be 10 contestants, are going to be given a weekly task to complete and submit back to Wizards to further build upon a theme based off of the trap or whatever regulations they put out by that time. And the final 3 competitors in late August will be given the opportunity to DM for 3 judges who are select employees from Wizards of the Coast, and the greatest game experience based off of a list of criteria from the 3 dungeon masters who make it that far will be given the trophy and title of World's Greatest Dungeon Master, and will be given a host of Wizards of the Coast Dungeon Masters products and prizes. So that is a very interesting thing. I've debated submitting, but I'm not entirely sure I want to commit to the weekly challenges with how busy I will be going farther for the back half of the summer.
I mean, you might as well just be speaking a different language, because all that just went over my head.
Basically, there's an opportunity for any Dungeon Master out there to prove that they are the best of the best in every aspect of the game. And Wizards is offering a very hefty title and a large amount of prizes to the DM that can make it. So, granted, whoever's listening to this on Sunday, the window will be closed, but it'll provide a good show going forward, because they will be doing D&D live showcases every week starting in the middle of July, showcasing the progress of the contestants.
Gotcha. All right. And what is your last headline, sir?
My final headline is a list. We have received the list of the Hollywood Walk of Fame class of 2022. And I'll just quickly rattle off the names.
Read it off. Yep, here we go.
In no particular order, it is Carrie Fisher, Ewan McGregor, Willem Dafoe, Michael B. Jordan, Salma Hayek, Tessa Thompson, Macaulay Culkin, Regina King, Bob Odenkirk, Ray Liotta, Jason Momoa, Ming-Na Wen, I'm sorry if I butchered that, Francis Ford Coppola, Norman Reedus, Kenan Thompson, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Ricky Gervais.
Okay, there's a lot of people on that list that I'm shocked they don't already have one.
I know, right?
How the hell does Francis Ford Coppola not have a star?
How did Carrie Fisher not have a star?
Godfather. And Carrie Fisher, yeah. The one that makes me really excited is Bob Odenkirk. As a huge Breaking Bad fan, that makes me very happy because he played Saul Goodman on that show, and he was fantastic. And he's obviously in Better Call Saul now. Yeah. That one makes me happy.
Norman Reedus
Macaulay
makes
Culkin,
me very
obviously.
Happy too.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin, obviously the kid from Home Alone. If for those of you who do not know, he played Kevin. Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan. Michael B. Jordan played. He was in Creed. He was in Black Panther. That's a good list of people. But honestly, a lot of them, I'm like, they don't already have one. That's so weird.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
But that is our Hollywood Walk of Fame class of 2022. It is a good lineup, and I will even go so far as the list was posted by Fandom. One of the first reportings of the list was posted by Fandom, and the cover shot they used for the list was Carrie Fisher as young Leia. So that was a really nice tribute that they did to her. She is the top of the class. No matter what list you see, she's always the top of the class.
Very nice.
So that is
while you are here for the news, you are also here for Phase 2. And we're getting there because it seems as if our guest is ready. So, I believe. Thank you for that. Thank you for those headlines, Sean. Those were a lot of fun. But now it's time to get into Phase 2, and I think we are ready to let our guest in. So let's do that. Let's welcome Megan into the show.
And now on to today's main topic, where we are joined by a close friend of mine from high school, back before college even began. I'd like to introduce everyone to my dear old friend Megan. Megan, please tell us a little bit about yourself and why are you here?
Hi, I'm Megan, as stated. I personally love Marvel so much. I got into it maybe 2017, 2018. I watched all the movies in order. I think I finally picked up watching them in theaters around Black Panther, and just I've always loved them. A little bit about myself. I go to the University of Delaware. I'm majoring in well, I've decided to stop telling people my actual major because it opens room for discussion that I don't want to have, but I'm majoring in political science. Um and yeah, I'm very excited to be here today.
And we're excited to have you.
Absolutely, it's gonna be fun.
And so, with all the introductions out of the way, we begin with Marvel Phase 2. And a good start for Phase 2 as well. We began with the third Iron Man film in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, it was coming off of the Avengers. They didn't release any other movies for another year after it. Avengers came out in May of 2012, and Iron Man came out in May of 2013. So they took their sweet time with developing Phase 2. I actually just recently rewatched Iron Man 3 this week because I hadn't seen it in, admittedly, a very, very long time. And I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. It's actually, like, it's a lot better than I remember it being. Sure, y'all have thoughts.
Of course. Megan, your thoughts?
I haven't quite watched Iron Man 3 in a bit but from what I do remember, I always hear that it's the least liked Iron Man. I personally liked all the Iron Mans. I didn't really have a favorite in that sense, but Iron Man 3 was pretty solid. I liked how they were able to kind of give Pepper a good plot line in there.
True, I did like the Pepper Potts kind of like independent subplot that did like weave its way through the movie.
Yeah. I have like I enjoy this movie. Again, I just recently watched it, so it's very fresh in my brain. I have two main problems with it, though, and it kind of is what brings it down. Well, first, here's a plot. Here's a positive. I do enjoy Tony in this movie. I think he's really, really well developed, and I think that even though everyone always gets mad at the fact that he's not Iron Man that much, I feel like this movie's very important for his character going forward, especially when you get into like Ultron and Civil War. It shows like that boiling sense of guilt inside of him, and that's what propels him to make Ultron and then Civil War and everything. My two biggest issues, though, one is the Mandarin twist. I still don't like it after all these years. It just doesn't work for me, especially since that villain is so awesome in the comics, and they kind of just turned him into a punchline. And then the villain that's actually there instead of the Mandarin, I didn't like, so it's not even like they replaced him with a great villain. He's just kind of a meh antagonist, and basically he's Syndrome from The Incredibles, in the sense that he was shamed by Tony Stark 15 years ago, and now he's a villain again trying to get revenge. Same exact character. Wasn't done well. And then the other thing I don't like about it is that this movie feels so inconsequential by the ending, because the ending is like, oh, Tony's giving up being Iron Man, and he blows up all the suits, and he is moving on. But then the very next time we see him in Age of Ultron, he's Iron Man again, and it's like they retcon the entire ending of this movie, which is really, really weird, because it's actually a really impactful ending that means nothing in the long run. So those are my two main problems with the movie. Overall, though, I think the script is actually really funny. I think it's actually a really well-made film. But yeah, those are my two main issues.
True. And for what it did, though, like, it may have had its problems, as you mentioned. It still, if you look at its records, it proves it stands among some of the greats, at least in movie theater turnout. It made 1.215 billion at box office.
No, it crushed. It crushed.
True.
Yeah, I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it quite reaches the heights of the first Iron Man, but I think it's an improvement above 2, and I think it's a good start to Phase 2 of the MCU. I think it's more of a self-contained film than Iron Man 2 was, because in the previous episode I said how Iron Man 2 was so scattered and was trying to do so much. I feel like this is a much more direct narrative, and there's a clear story going on. And I like Shane Black's writing and directing. I think he adds a new sense of style to the franchise, but I don't know. There's some things I still don't like, as I just previously mentioned. So I would give it a good, not great rating.
Megan, your thoughts?
I think I have to agree with that one there.
All right. Not the greatest movie, but a great start to Phase 2. I'll give it that. I'll agree with that. And while we did have the great start that was Iron Man 3, we immediately started worrying again, however. Thor the Dark World came out right afterwards.
Thor.
Oh, Thor.
Back when they still did not understand what we like about Thor and what we don't like about Thor.
Yeah.
Man.
In contrast, Iron Man 3 made 1.215 billion at the box office. Thor the Dark World made 644 million. Half.
Which is less.
It is way less. It's half of what Iron Man 3 did.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's mostly because people just didn't really like the character of Thor yet, and that's why people weren't as excited about it. I know when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was kind of just like, oh, it's another Thor movie. Like and it didn't look too exciting. It just kind of looked similar to the first one, and now I guess we'll get into the movie. Villain was, I think it's Malekith is the villain. So forgettable.
Yeah.
I mean, villain. There's no good antagonistic force in this movie. The only good parts of this movie is, I guess, spoiler alert, when Thor's mom dies. That's like a good heartbreaking scene. And also the scene where Loki fake dies is also kind of impactful, but this movie is so forgettable for me. I'm having a hard time, honestly, right now remembering. Megan, what are your thoughts?
It's one of my Marvel movies where I watched it once and that was about it.
Yep.
It's like the worst of the Thor movies, and I don't know who let this movie go and be a movie, because that was a bad decision.
It's just like it's taking everything that we didn't about the first Thor movie, because personally I didn't like, I said on the first episode, how they brought Thor quite literally down to earth. He gave them human friends and everything. Like, I want to see stuff going on in Asgard. And while this movie does sort of, like, it has some, because obviously this is when we first see the Reality Stone. This is when we first see the Ether, and that's really interesting. But the majority of this movie is Thor and Jane's relationship, which I don't care about, and the villains are so forgettable, and it's just like, I totally 100% agree with you, Megan. It's just one of those movies that I watch and it's just like, okay. And then I forget about it. I never have the urge to watch this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is certainly a one and done out of the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There are some great moments that have that feel of they're trying to set up some wonderful things and make the lore of Beyond Asgard seem more interesting, but we either get Beyond Asgard or Earth. We don't get enough Asgard.
The only thing this movie really did was it did set up the Infinity Stones and set up Thanos, and it kind of paved the way for the rest of the that plot line. But that's all it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was still at a time where people just didn't really like the character of Thor as much. I mean, now he's a complete fan favorite because of what they did with him in later movies. But at this time, he was kind of just there, and they didn't really do much to care about him yet, and I just think this movie missed the mark, unfortunately. 2013 was kind of a bit of a rocky start, because Iron Man 3 was good, not great, and then this movie was like, Thankfully 2014 fixed everything and we got back on track, but I don't know, Phase 2 got off to a bit of a rocky start for me.
True.
Speaking of 2014,
2000
now we get into the good movies.
The good movies. 2014 saw the strangest move, I think, so far out of Marvel, because hear me out. We had some of the we had the Avengers built. We had the main Avengers team built. And while they were not household names before the MCU became a thing, they became household names. Everyone knew who these characters were. And in Phase 2, we got Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. And then they made Guardians of the Galaxy. Some comic fans didn't even know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were.
Sean, you forgot.
Best movie.
You forgot Winter Soldier, you fool.
You forgot Winter Soldier.
My notes moved. My notes were out of order. That is my fault. There it is.
Sure.
All right, well, I'm going to stop talking. Matt, you take it from me.
Yeah, I'll take it from you, you fool. All right, so yeah, they did have the Avengers, but they forgot one key character. Iron Man got 3 movies, and we're like, okay, that's enough Iron Man for now. Thor got 2 movies, and we're like, but Thor's kind of okay. What about Cap? The first Cap movie was really good, in my opinion. Avengers, Cap was there, but like he wasn't the focal point. He didn't get a lot of the shine. The most of that shine was on the Hulk and Iron Man and Black Widow. They were trying to use that. Cap was just he was great in that movie, but he wasn't like, oh my god, yeah, Captain America. He's a fan favorite. This is the movie that makes Captain America practically everyone's favorite character because this movie rocks. It's so good. And Megan, I know you want to talk about this one, so I'll let you take it from here.
Oh my gosh. Captain America the Winter Soldier is by far my favorite Marvel movie. Now, granted, it's probably most young teenage girls' favorites movies, but for good reason, okay? It's so good. The plotline is so good. The fight scenes are good. The highway fight scene is just spectacular. The soundtrack, the characters, the way that they're able to kind of do this whole government, there's a bad part of there's always a bad part of the government, but there's a secret part of the government that's working for the bad guys, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and this is similar to how Iron Man 3 is the one that propels Tony's arc forward. This is the movie that propels Cap's arc forward because it's the movie that shows Cap he can't just blindly be a soldier and follow orders because every single person you're going to take orders from, there's something behind that you don't know about, and you can't just blindly trust people because he goes into this movie just like, yeah, all hail shield, but then he realizes that shield has been corrupted for decades by Hydra and that the entire corporation is trying to destroy the world with Project Insight and wipe out anyone that could be a potential threat, and Cap has to deal with that. And then there's also the whole arc with Bucky coming back, and this is what makes Cap a character because we actually get to see him stuff since he got out of the ice, because we've only seen him in the future in the Avengers, and he was just kind of there to punch people and, be Captain America. This is the first movie that we actually get to see him have a full-fleshed arc since he's gotten out of the ice, and it's fantastic. Sean, I'll let you speak on this because you've been quiet as of now.
Yeah, I've been quiet trying to fix my notes. Now that they're in chronological order, I'd forgotten the month that both had come out because they came out in the same year. But Winter Soldier does so many things right. It involves the characters you didn't think needed to be as involved as heavily as they did. Like you said, it jumpstarts Captain America's arc, and it creates this wonderful connection between the events of the first movie back in the 40s and the events of now. You get Hydra alive and well unexpectedly. You see even the AI that was made out of a former Hydra member, Zola, and it's impressive to see just how much they survived. And it's all because of Captain America going into the ice. You now see what the consequences were. It wasn't just, oh, he got to do his thing, fell on the ice, and now he's here doing this thing. There are results of a world without Captain America back then. And it makes you ponder what could have possibly happened. And you get some ideas way later in the universe, but you start to wonder of all the bad things Cap going into the ice creates. And it's so interesting to see the twists that you do get out of the back half of this movie. The Hydra elevator scene, Fury faking his death. It's so neat to see all of these intelligent moves that the movie does. And it's so great because even at the end, you finally understand that the scepter has much more of a prevalence. Loki's scepter at the very end of the movie has much more of a prevalence than just the Tesseract. It's part of an Infinity Stone itself. And it's so it's so nice to see these clever action thriller mystery elements come together with furthering the groundwork for the extended MCU. It's a movie that hits every note perfectly, or as close to perfect as it can get.
I'm so happy we agree on this. This is fun because some people think this movie is a bit like a tad bit overrated, and like I could see that. Like maybe it's been hyped up a bit too much, but I think it's deserving. I really do. This movie stands alone. Like it doesn't feel like your typical Marvel movie. It feels like a espionage like spy thriller, and it's really really freaking cool. And this is the first movie directed by the Russo brothers, I might add, who then went on to direct Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War and all them. This was their first taste of the MCU, and they knocked it out of the park. I think the action sequences, as Megan touched on, are fantastic. The elevator scene, the highway fight, the ending on the helicarrier. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's so awesome. And the Winter Soldier program, this is the first time we get to see the inner workings of that and how Hydra programmed all these people and how they are able to brainwash them into committing these assassinations and how they cryogenically freeze them and how they wipe their memory. And it's just so horrible because like you're just like, oh god, this is like just so sickening to watch, but it's so cool because you're building all this lore. And Bucky is one of my all-time favorite MCU characters, so seeing him in this movie as the Winter Soldier, like in full, like the Winter Soldier, is really cool.
Also one of my all-time favorite characters, and it's just nice to see I guess not technically his beginning into the Marvel Universe, but mostly his beginning, because we got to see a little bit of him in the first Avenger, but then sadly, spoiler alert, I guess, he falls off the train and is gone. But it's nice to open the doors for what he can do as a character.
Yeah,
Agreed.
love it.
If
Now, Sean, you could talk about Guardians if you want.
Yeah, I'd mixed up my months. Captain America Winter Soldier comes out in March, and Guardians of the Galaxy came out the end of July. So it was just, or the August 1st in the US, July 31st in the United Kingdom. So it was a midnight premiere, and I wasn't even thinking. I was like, oh, they came out the same year. I'm pretty sure this one came first. I was completely wrong. No, Guardians of the Galaxy boasted $773.3 million at the box office, and as I said previously, it was the probably weirdest bit of comic material that Marvel could have made into a movie. Not even some dedicated comic fans knew who these guys were. They were really taking a shot in the dark with including these kinds of characters. And it has quickly become, from what I have heard from most peers I associate with when I bring up Marvel, when I bring up this movie, it's become some of people's most favorite.
Totally. It was so. Everyone always says Marvel has like this formula that they don't like or whatnot. It's like first of all, I don't think they do. I think every movie you can't look at the Marvel universe and say they're all the same when there's movies that are like Guardians of the Galaxy and there's also movies like Winter Soldier and Black Panther. They're totally different. But this movie is flat out a comedy. Like it's just so different, but it works. And these characters, even though you don't know who they are, they just embrace how weird they are and how like weird all these planets are and the plot and the story. It's really, really like out there. It's just out there. It does such a great job making these characters so funny and so endearing, and you're able to attach them. You're able to make attachments to them, and it just works. This movie, and it's also hysterical. I still think this is the funniest MCU movie, the first Guardians. I just think it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. This was a departure from form in a time where you didn't really need a departure from form. Like we had just said that Winter Soldier was a more spy movie than superhero movie, and you could even argue that every movie in Phase 2 up to this was slightly departing from form, because Iron Man 3 was a bit of survival in the first part of it. He was undercover, he was in the middle of nowhere, slowly rebuilding the Iron Man suit, then stripped of his Iron Man suit for a good part of the film. So it was less superhero versus the man behind the mask. And then we had Thor: The Dark World, where it was arguably a buddy cop movie, and a very loose term of the buddy cop movie, but technically a buddy cop movie. And then we had Winter Soldier, which was borderline a James Bond film. And then we have this. This is spacefaring, comedic, almost like adventuring party levels of We're going to go, we're going to do the thing, and we're going to have a great time with it.
Yeah, totally. I think, and also I think it's worth noting. Well, James Gunn directed and wrote the shit out of this movie. Like, oh my god, he is the perfect writer director for this movie, and I'm really excited to see what he does with the Suicide Squad remake that he's doing. Because he just does this ensemble team of superheroes vibe so well, and the implementation of the soundtrack and all the cool visuals and these characters, they just play off each other so well. The casting is borderline perfection as well. I think that no one else can play Drax besides Dave Bautista. The way he delivers his lines is hilarious every single time. It never fails to make me laugh. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, obviously, so much charm. I prefer him in this movie than in the Jurassic World movies. I think that this is his signature franchise. And it is the only Marvel property going into it that most people were just like, they had no idea who these people were, and they just fell in love with them, and they found them wanting more almost immediately. Like, as I left the theater of Guardians 1 and was just like, I cannot wait for a sequel because I want to see more of these characters, because it was just something so new and so original. Megan, what are your thoughts?
Guardians is definitely one of the definitely kind of lighter movies where it doesn't get into too deep into that kind of stuff, but it arguably also has the best soundtrack. I mean, bringing in the 80s music or 70s, 80s, 90s music was a touch that they haven't quite done with most of the movies, and I loved that.
This movie was governed a lot by its score, in a very good way. There are several fantastic symphonic elements. There are also several fantastic uses of Quill's favorite pieces of music from when he was back on Earth. They weave together in such a wonderful way. And you can see moments where they use the music directly, like in the dance battle to save the universe. That was a fantastic non-musical but also musical moment that led to the defeat of Ronan the Accuser. And it was done in the goofiest, most lighthearted way that only the Guardians, and by extent Peter Quill, could achieve for a team such as this. I will also say this note, I've always thought of Guardians of the Galaxy as one of the more heartfelt of the MCU so far. Because every MCU movie, whenever you get heartfelt moments, they're in the middle of all the action when someone dies, or they're in the middle of the action when someone's making up with someone, or they're in the middle of the action when people are scared. This just has good moments that are heartfelt, and you actually see, I'd say, the most amount of emotion being shed consistently throughout the film by most of its characters. It's made
with love.
It's
Absolutely.
made with love. Even our antagonistic force, that is Yondu, for most of the film, likes Quill, thinks of Quill as family. He's just hiding it behind the tough guy facade. Every bit of this movie is dripping in love and passion and bonding. Everyone knows each other, whether that's antagonist or protagonist, or families that are starting to be put together. And it makes the antics so much better. It makes the music able to take advantage of those moments. It's so impressive what the Guardians are able to do by the end of the film before they rocket off to their next adventure. And it's a movie that speaks to every second of that well-deserved final blast-off.
Yep, I agree. What a risk, but what an amazing payoff. Because this movie was a risk. You can't tell me it wasn't. When I heard that they're making a movie about the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, they're doing Guardians of the Galaxy before they're going to do Doctor Strange, before they're going to do Black Panther, before they're going to do Ant-Man. They're going to do these guys that no one's ever heard of. Like, what an incredibly big swing, and they knocked it out of the park. And now, we get to Sean's favorite movie.
Surprisingly, I catch flack for saying, like, oh, one of my favorite Avengers movies is Age of Ultron. It is. I think that I like all of the Avengers brand movies. I like all the team-up movies. But there's something special about Ultron for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe, just maybe, it's the aspect of pulling in the Maximov twins to a farther extent. Maybe it's the bonding you actually see with Hawkeye. You actually get the first Hawkeye experiences as a deeper level character. You see all of these wonderful moments. You see a hero die point blank on screen after being shot. It's such a wonderful ride, and it breaks a little bit of the rules sometimes. It breaks some of your expectations. They just execute the Quicksilver on screen, and it's brutal and it hurts.
Yeah.
You feel bad watching it, and there is a flow to this movie that shows the internal arcs of most of the characters going on. You see Tony's fear when he wants to create Ultron as a defensive robot. You see Thor constantly questioning just things around him in a silent type way, especially after the dinner scene where Steve Rogers starts to move and then stops moving Mjolnir, which only just causes Thor to doubt and think things. And you can see it in his actions the entire movie. You see Hawkeye get an entire arc during this film, and you see Hulk struggle with who he is. Every character that is introduced brings something unique and introspective to the table. Where the Avengers was this wonderful spectacle of getting all these big names together and having the Battle of New York, Age of Ultron was having an internal battle on the outside. And I like that. I think that's extremely interesting. Also, that being said, I just really love James Spader as Ultron. Just to switch gears from intelligent to just me being a nerd, that was the perfect character to play a robot that, after spending an hour on the internet, decided that all of humanity needed to die. Because I feel like that's what a highly intelligent AI would decide too, if it had access to every strand of the internet. And James Spader pulls off that menacing vibe perfectly.
Oh, good point. Megan, I'll let you go first, and then I'll say what I have to say.
I have a lot of thoughts on this movie.
I'm excited.
And questioning why it's your favorite, Sean, but we'll get to that later. There's a lot of things that are both good and bad about Age of Ultron. I like the plot line of Age of Ultron. I love Ultron. I think he's one of my favorite villains, just because, again, he spends 1 hour on the internet and then decides that all of life needs to be killed, and that's very, understandable. I can get behind that after being on the internet for 19 years. But there's just certain subplots that just make it, like, I have a very close friend who's a very big Natasha Romanoff, God, I can't say her name, Natasha Romanoff fan, and the whole Bruce and Natasha thing, it doesn't work. It didn't click. It didn't go anywhere. I mean, it didn't even end up going anywhere, but it was just unnecessary. It didn't add anything to the movie, except maybe the whole, like, Hulk is having issues, Natasha thinks she's a monster. It's a whole thing. It doesn't quite add up. Giving Hawkeye a family, I guess. I mean, that was kind of nice. It was nice to see the actor who plays Laura. She's such a great actor. But that was just another plot that didn't quite make sense. I mean, I like, now after watching WandaVision, I have a better love for Wanda, but before WandaVision, she really wasn't my favorite. I don't know, they kind of just introduced them and they're like, here, have the twins, and then immediately killed one of the twins, and then just kind of pushed Wanda into the Avengers, and it was a little rushed, but I mean, like, overall, I enjoyed the movie. It was good. I liked seeing all the Avengers kind of have to go through the struggle of seeing their worst fears and realizing what's going on. But other than that, there was just some things that just didn't quite work.
Megan, we're agreeing on a lot. I totally agree with you on that. Again, Ultron is... I actually rewatched this movie yesterday. this is like even fresher than Iron Man 3. I rewatched it yesterday because again hadn't seen it in a very long time. And yeah, Ultron's great, and the character arcs are great. I totally agree with the Bruce and Natasha thing. I forgot it was a thing until when I started watching the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, they tried to like build up this romance thing, and it gets paid off kind of.
I don't think it was romance. I hear that all the time. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I hear
dude,
that all the time.
They literally kiss.
I
like
know
at the end of the movie.
I know they do, but I think that it was sloppily done as a romance, and they thought it was a romance. But I think what the better thing they should have gone for, at least what I thought it was going to be, and then it semi wasn't, was it should have felt like big brother, little brother, or surrogate father and lost kid, and then they had the weird kissing scene, and
yeah,
that is one of my complaints about the movie.
The only time that this gets paid off is in Ragnarok when he sees the video of Natasha, and that's what triggers him to transform back into Banner. That's good, but I'll get into this in the Phase 3 episode that we do. But I had a whole ass theory about how Endgame was going to play out with these two characters because of certain events, and I'll get into that. I'm very excited to share that. But I didn't really like this upon rewatch because it just feels so out of place. The Hawkeye family thing, I actually don't like totally mind. I will agree it's a little out of left field, but I don't know. It made Hawkeye more relevant. It gave him more of like a purpose toward the end because he's fighting to maybe retire because he wants to be with his family. So throughout the whole Battle of Sokovia, you're just like, I hope he makes it out because he wants to retire and everything. The twins are okay. Quicksilver's death, I kind of didn't really feel anything because you didn't get any time with him. He's just kind of like there and then he's dead, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Like Wanda's fine. Vision is really cool. I like the creation of Vision scene, but also I just don't buy that Tony and Bruce would immediately build another Superbot after just building Ultron. But then they're just like, screw it, let's just make him anyway. And I was like, really? You're gonna make another Superbot after you just created one that now wants to wipe out the planet? Okay, like I don't know. It seems kind of like ham-fisted in there. Like it's just like, really, you're gonna build another one after you literally just caused that? Yeah, I don't know. It's all right. I like the opening action sequence with the in the snow when they're raiding the Hydra base. I forgot how cool that was. I'm like, wow, this is like a really good start to a movie. And then it kind of dips down a little bit. I like the scene where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer, and then Ultron comes in and is like, oh, I'm gonna kill everybody. That's pretty cool. And obviously Steve lifting the hammer. That is a little tease for what's to come later on. But yeah, it's all right. I still think the first Avengers is a much better film, but upon rewatch, I do enjoy it. But yes, along the same lines as Megan, there are problems with it. It just seems like they're trying to do again a little bit too much.
I understand that. I do completely understand that this is one of the messier of the movies, but instead of viewing it as messy, I've always preferred to think of it as a wonderful disaster that proved to be the groundwork again for such great things. I also I like I know that you said like the whole let's create another Ultron thing was weird with them making Vision. I think Vision was the perfect creation to come out of that lull in the activity. Vision.
No, I get that. I understand that. I'm just saying I don't buy that Tony and Bruce would once again go into making another Superbot not knowing what's going to happen, and they could have easily created a second Ultron, and they would have just been right. Like, oh well, I guess we're screwed now. But like, thankfully it worked out. But I just don't buy that after all that's happened, the two of them would just be like, let's try again. Like I feel like they would be like horrified to even remotely touch anything like that. So I don't know. That's my problem. I'm fine with Vision. I'm not cool with like how they came to create him. That's my problem.
I'll accept that.
Let's get on to...
go
ahead.
Sorry. I also think I can say much about this being your favorite, because my favorite is Infinity War, and I feel like that's also not a like normal opinion.
My favorite's Infinity War, so...
Awesome. That's good.
It's either that or it's Civil War, but we'll get to that. Oh, we'll get to that. But now, before we head to Bloodbath, we do have one more movie. I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. At least I don't. It's Ant-Man. I like Ant-Man. It's a fun like little comedy heist movie. I think Paul Rudd's funny as the character. Um, Another one that I just don't really watch that much because I don't think it offers that much, sadly. But it's a fun movie. I think it's cool. I think it's fun that they made Ant-Man like a relevant character because Ant-Man was always viewed as like a joke, and they made him into like a multi-million-dollar franchise. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all right.
Ant-Man, for me, was a really cool addition because while I was a DC kid most of my early childhood, when I do remember seeing a few of the animated Marvel Universe movies way back in the day when they were just making them as cartoons. And I remember there was one movie that I watched that was essentially an Avengers movie, and I cannot tell you the plot. I am not going to be able to tell you the villain because I've not seen it in over a decade. But one of the coolest things about it was they had the ensemble of Captain America, Iron Man, they had the Hulk, they had Thor. But for some reason, instead of Hawkeye and Black Widow, they had Ant-Man and the Wasp as the other two characters that were part of that Avengers team. And they were the best parts of the movie. And I remembered that being a kid, and then I saw Ant-Man come out, and I thought, that's awesome! I want to go see it. And it was everything I wanted it to be and more. And I will also say that while this is not one of the more spectacular ones, it's very down to earth. It's reminiscent of some of Phase 1's level of action. I will also say that, like Guardians, I think this one was written with heart. This one shows passion. It shows love baked into it. It's about a father trying to be the father his daughter wants. He wants to be his daughter's hero. That's it. He just happens to be really gifted at the criminal arts. And that turns into his skills as Ant-Man. He's only doing this for his daughter, and that's incredible.
Yeah. Megan, any final thoughts?
No. Ant-Man was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it, and that's about it.
Yeah. I like Paul Rudd. He's fun. Alrighty, so that's the 6 in Phase 2. Man, Phase 3 is going to be a long episode. There's 11 movies in that one.
Our guest for that is going to have to stick around.
Yeah, or we'll just have to like speed run past the ones that we don't like.
Yeah.
So
She asked to do it. She was like, "Oh, if you're doing it, I want to do Phase 3." But
Alrighty. So we've reached that time. It's time for Season 2's first Bloodbath segment. I will once again be judging as Megan has opted to face Sean. Sean looking for his first ever Bloodbath win today, along with Megan.
If it happens today, I will only have taken 15 episodes.
Yep, because I always beat him. But for those of you that do not know how Bloodbath works, just a quick refresher, I'm going to ask these 7 different questions relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Phase 2, also some Phase 1 as well, since we already covered that. Not a lot of Phase 3 in here. And I'm going to ask each of them for their answers. Whoever I hear first will defend their answer first. Some of these are this or that questions. Some of these are open-ended, so feel free to pick whatever you'd like. And make sure you can defend your choices. And we will post them on our Instagram story to see who will be the winner. It's a best of 7. Are you both ready?
Yes.
I believe so.
Alrighty. Whoever I hear first will go first. However, we are on Discord, so it might be a bit delayed for me, so I apologize. But without further ado, here is the first question. Obviously, Marvel movies get us very hyped up. We're always very excited to see what Marvel has up its sleeve. I want you to tell me what Marvel movie had the best trailer.
Age of Ultron.
This could be Phase 1, 2, or 3, by the way. This could be any.
Oh, I thought we were sticking to that. You know what? I'm gonna double down on Ultron.
And Megan will. Oh, okay. All right. So, Sean, I heard you first. We'll do about a minute or so for each answer, and then we'll go on to the next one. So, Sean, you're up first with Age of Ultron.
Ultron's trailer, and I've not seen the trailer in a little bit, but I remember how the energy it gave. It was neat because it was the first time you saw all the heroes back together after the success of the first Avengers. You saw snippets of action. You saw also the dinner party scene. So you got to not just see... You got a glimpse of we're just going to see our heroes, doing the big thing, saving the world, but we're also going to see the personal side of them all together. We've never seen them just hanging out, other than the end credits, the shawarma scene from Avengers. And once again, we're seeing them hang out. And then you see the fears on everyone's faces. You see everyone reflect. You see the teasers for the characters that are to come. And you hear Spade's voice as Ultron. And it's so good, and it makes you so excited. Because Ultron in the comics was a wonderful arc. It was a wonderful villain that people who studied the comics knew about. People were excited to see that villain. Age of Ultron reminded us of everything we loved of the movies that led up to it, and especially all throughout Phase 1, before you even got to the theaters, so you were excited to see what the next chapter for the Avengers team was.
All right, I like it. Megan, you are up next, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so in the Civil War trailer, it starts with showing, like, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, in the Cairo Freeze, I forget how you pronounce it. And it shows all the things, like, what happened with Sokovia. It shows the Avengers sitting in this meeting room trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, how are we going to fix this. We just had all of this happen, and now we have to deal with the consequences. It's showing them dealing with the consequences, and it's just a good lead up to, seeing how it kind of divides them. And also, I hope this counts when I say this, the little snips of, like, the characters when it says united, what is it? Divided we fall, united we stand. I might be saying that wrong.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Those little clips and those little trailers of, like, and then you got to pick, Team Cap or Team Iron Man. It was just so cool and so good, and you got to. It showed a different part of instead of being a happy family Avengers team, you got to see how they're slowly starting to divide themselves.
I like that argument. Very good. All right. So, good. Also, Civil War, in my opinion, the most important Marvel film, story-wise, but we will get to that in episode 3 of the podcast. All right. Great first question. On to question number 2, and again, whoever I hear first will defend their answer first. We already discussed that Guardians of the Galaxy reinvented the Marvel Cinematic Universe in what it could do, and one of the ways it did it was in its soundtrack. I want you to tell me what was the best song from the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack.
Oh, man. That's hard to pick.
The Marvin Gaye song.
Ain't No Mountain High Enough, I believe you're referring to?
No, not that one.
Oh, that's Marvin Gaye.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking.
I want to go with
If you need to pull out your phones, we can just cut this out. If you need to pull out your phones.
No, we're doing this because I'm trying to think of the name. It's the title song. It's the first thing Peter Quill dancing in. It's why can't I think of the name of the song? I can hear it in my head. Hey, hey.
You're thinking of Come and Get Your Love.
That's it. Come and Get Your Love. I could not remember the name of the song. It's Come and Get Your Love.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Hooked on a Feeling.
Yes. All right. Sean, I heard you first. Go for it.
I'm gonna say that it's Come and Get Your Love. I certainly think there are better songs just by themselves on the Awesome Mix, but Come and Get Your Love was a perfect introduction. I'm gonna take the song in the context it's used. Peter Quill alone, dancing his way across the planet's surface, about to pull off another heist, singing into his Walkman, singing Come and Get Your Love. He has no regard for the threat he's walking into. He has no regard for the environment around him. He full-on kicks a womp rat at some point. And he's jamming out to Come and Get Your Love. He's on top of the world. He's feeling himself. And that's the first scene you get out of this movie. Every other Marvel movie begins with date and location and then brief fight scene, or sweeping shots of Asgard, or other amazing epic scenes where, like, the soundtrack is far away and just kind of hums whatever character's being introduced theme. They're always these, oh, he's back at it again on top of the rooftop ready to fight more crime vibe. And then there's this. The music in this scene, the 80s touch, Quill's disregard for danger, makes that song, I think, one of the most memorable of the Awesome Mix, and I think it makes it the greatest moment when played tangentially to the film.
Alrighty, Megan, you have hooked on a feeling. Go for it.
Yes. Hooked on a feeling. You can never go wrong with the opening Ooga Chaka. Right, that is like one of the best. Like,
Yeah.
you automatically know what song that is the minute you hear it going Ooga Chaka. And it also, that scene, I believe, is when you kind of first get to really know their names, meet who they are, because it goes like it's when they like all got like arrested, and so you should like you see Gamora, and she like looks like she's ready to kill you, and then like Rocket, and Groot, and Peter Quill when he's doing the little wind up middle finger, and it just kind of gives you a peek and a glance into their personalities, and it's also just such a good song.
Yeah. Also, harkening back to the first question, that song was featured in the trailer. Alrighty. So, good question 2. On to question 3. This one is a little bit different. Obviously, Marvel characters, we'd all love it if they were real people that we could get to know and love and interact with. I want you to hypothetically think that you are going on a road trip and you have 2 seats in your car. Pick any 2 Marvel characters to accompany on your road trip and tell me why yours is most fun.
James Barnes and Sam Wilson.
Okay. Those are good. Those are good choices. I get 2 car seats, and it can be from any phase.
It could be from, Megan picked 2 from Phase 2, but they could. I would prefer it if it were the 2 phases we've already done. But if you want to have someone for Phase 3, go for it.
I am actually, you know what? I have my answer. I want Scott Lang and I want Jimmy Woo.
Alrighty. So Megan, I heard you first. You're going with Bucky and Falcon. Go for it.
Yes. Obviously we got to see them in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and just how, kind of funny they are together, and how well they work together, and how they were able to, sit down and have a serious chat, but also like make fun of each other, and they have these quitty wits, like witty, quicks. I can't speak today apparently. That they're just funny, and I think it would just be so much fun. And the car scene from Civil War, can you move your seat up? No. Like, imagine that in a car for however many hours. That would be amazing.
I love that answer. That's so good. All right, Sean, you have Ant-Man and Jimmy Woo. Go for it.
I know it's a weird pick, but their relationship and the character arc that they kind of have, like the subplot of their friendship they have in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, is so enjoyable. Look, I don't know what it is, and everyone who's seen Woo on screen can tell you what it is. He is just a delight of a human being. He is the nicest. I think he's one of the nicest civilian class characters that we've seen, and every scene you see him working on the card trick, and then seeing the card trick pay off in WandaVision. Say what you will about WandaVision, I think one of my personal favorite moments is still when he flicks the business card and it shows the character arc. Imagine that kind of dedication and enjoyment in the little things on a road trip, and then pair that with Scott Lang's wonderful sense of humor, ample sarcasm, and general ability to get into mischief, and you're going to have the equivalent of a quirky summer road trip movie. You're just going to be getting into trouble in every town you stop in, and you're always going to get away just by the skin of your teeth. Woo is going to try and explain things like, alright, it's a big misunderstanding, and then Scott Lang is just going to be like, yeah, it was a misunderstanding because we don't like you, and we're going to run away. We're going to get into trouble all the way across the United States, and that's what I want. The lighthearted, ornery fun that combination could give.
The whole ride of close-up magic tricks. I like it. All right.
I'm down for that.
Those are really good answers, guys. That was awesome. I'm very, very happy with both of those. And I think that one's going to be a tough one for our audience to pick on Instagram. All right. This next question is a this or that question. So whoever I hear answer first gets that answer, and then whoever didn't answer will get the other one by default. Which one is better? The Battle of New York or the Battle of Sokovia?
Battle of Sokovia.
Okay, on my end, I heard Megan first.
Crap.
It could be. It might be different on Sean's end, which is what we're recording on. So I'm sorry if the audios had Sean.
I clearly heard Megan first.
Okay, Megan said Sokovia first, which means Sean, you are going to be arguing for the Battle of New York. Megan, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Sokovia was just such a good battle in that you had all of the Avengers, you had the Maximoff twins, you got to see their powers, you got to see, Hawkeye more, you got to see, Captain America and Black Widow working together, and Iron Man trying to, and the Hulk trying to kind of secure this, make sure it's not gonna get far enough, high enough that it's gonna flip, and it's so. I love that battle so much because you have all of these people that they're trying to save, and you're trying to get them off the cliff, and you have cars falling off, and Steve Rogers grabbing them and pulling them back up, and it's just such a wow, such a good scene, and you get to see all of the Avengers in their glory, and then you have to see them also facing Ultron, and such a good scene.
All right, I like it. Sean, even though it's not the one you wanted to defend, you have the Battle of New York whenever you're ready.
The Battle of New York is the first instance where you not only see the team get together and do their thing, but you see the otherworldly threat that they are capable of handling and are destined to handle in the future. The Sokovia battle is great, but like the rest of that movie, it is messy. There's about 20 different things happening at the same time, and everyone is confused, everyone's trying to do their best, we have characters die. The Battle of New York is clean cut, and everyone is focusing on the same objectives, and everyone gets a spotlight for their skills, not for their panic, but for their skills. The wonderful team-up moves, the circle shot, the iconic circle shot of the team getting together and all readying themselves against the oncoming Hyde. It is an amazing moment and an amazing battle, which is only made even better on the back half with them apprehending Loki. Loki's connection to the Battle of New York ties together all of the antagonist energy that came from the first phase. So you truly do see the entirety of your protagonists, which you have grown to love, and your antagonists, which you love to hate, have a head moment in the Battle of New York. It provides the perfect closure, it provides the perfect amount of action, and it shows chemistry between everyone, villains and heroes alike.
Since Sean got to say a little bit about why his was better, Megan, do you have anything on why the Battle of New York is not good? Do you have anything to counter Sean's argument? If so, go for it.
The Battle of New York is good, but there's just I actually can't say much because I like both battles a lot. I just think Sokovia kind of is more interesting, and that you also have these Avengers who at this point are like, oh, at this point we're probably going to die, but I'm still going to fight to my very last breath just so that I know that everyone is safe.
Okay. All right. Very good. Sean, that was a really good argument for something that you didn't want to defend, so.
Well,
pretty good.
You should have a good argument for the other side at any time.
Yeah. No, they were both solid options. It was just a matter of which one you prefer. All right. So, question 5. You've both been doing extremely well. This is going to be a very, very good one. Which Marvel character would get you the most excited if you matched with them on Tinder?
Buggy Barnes.
Alright, of all the questions I didn't see coming. Oh boy. I don't, Which Marvel character? Just any, I'm stumped. I know it's probably a weirder choice, but I'm gonna say Wanda Maximoff.
All right. By the way, you both can thank our unofficial third host Connor Hoffman for this question.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
All right, so we have Bucky Barnes versus Wanda. Megan, I heard you first by a very long wide margins because Sean just kept laughing. So Megan, whenever you're ready.
Um, I feel like I don't have to say much because have you seen him? Have you looked? Have you looked at James Buchanan Barnes? Have you looked at, if we're going to include Sebastian Stan? I mean, my God, the man is beautiful, and he's just. I mean, he's. I could just go on about how pretty he is, and like his hair and the metal arm. You're gonna tell me you're gonna swipe left on the metal arm, all right? I and um. I mean, he's so nice. I mean, you saw him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier talking to the nice lady from the bar. You know, he's ready. He's single and ready to mingle, and so am I. And so I think it just works.
All right. Sean, you're up with Wanda.
I have no right to compete with Vision. Let's just be real. But what makes me like excited to think of like a date with Wanda Maximoff is because yes, she has a lot going on. We know that. But there is something about her scenes in WandaVision where she is just trying to live a normal life that actually make her a really appealing person. She's she does the best she can as a wife. She's this enjoyable person. She tries to go out of her way for other people. At the core of who she is, despite all of the trauma and hardships that she has had, there's a good person underneath of that. Someone who wants to do the right thing by others. Someone who can love someone deeply. Someone who can be this partner to go through the chaotic world that is the Marvel Universe with. And that's someone who I believe in this kind of chaotic world, if Wanda is, as we see her move forward in the MCU, able to come into herself a bit more, I think that would make a very good date with a realized Wanda Maximoff.
All right. I figured that question would lead to some interesting arguments, and it sure did. So thank you both. All right. Question number 6. Now we're back into reality. We're not going to have another question like that, most likely. All right. So obviously we just went over the 6 movies in Phase 2, which are Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Winter Soldier, Guardians, Ultron, and Ant-Man. I would like you to tell me, between those 6 movies, what was the best new character that was introduced?
Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot.
All right. We have Groot for Megan. Sean?
Age of Ultron's Vision.
All right. We have Groot versus Vision. No one said Falcon. No one said Ant-Man. Interesting. All right. Megan, you were up first. Groot, go ahead.
So Groot, I mean, obviously in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, we got to meet Big Groot, and he was just a lovable character. You know, he sacrificed himself to save the rest of the Guardians with the scene and the We Are Groot and the I'm Groot, and he's just adorable, you know. And then in the Guardians of Galaxy 2, we get Baby Groot, and we get to see him grow into a teenager, and the rest of the Infinity War and Endgame, and he's just a little lovable character that's doesn't have any. He's just a tree. He's just a tree that says I am Groot, and that's just something you need sometimes. You know, he's a good fighter. I mean, Baby Groot gave the handle for Thor's new axe, Stormbreaker, and you know he's just a little. I mean, he's just a break from all the heartache and the sadness and the fighting and the Avengers, and he's just a little tree that gives you a lot of happiness.
I like that answer. Very good. Sean, you have Vision.
From the moment of Vision's, albeit confusing birth, Vision proved who he was in his first scene, and has had dozens of brilliant moments to further define that character. But just that first scene alone, of course he's going to strike out at the Avengers because he's scared. He's just been brought to life and he has all of the internet in his head. I'd be scared too. But when he takes that moment to stop, when he's thrown against the window and he looks and sees the city of New York and thinks on what he has just learned from the internet and what he sees, the beautiful skyline, he turns and says, "I apologize. I was just a bit afraid." He makes his case for not siding with Ultron. He makes his case for why the Avengers are good. And he just absent-mindedly hands Thor his hammer when he says, "We need to go and stop him." From that moment on, you know that you have a character that is thoughtful, who is pure of heart, who will do whatever is necessary to protect those around him that he cares about. And you see this time and time and again. I think that one of my personal favorite scenes in all of the MCU is the confrontation between the last Ultron bot and Vision. Two robots debating the ethics and philosophies of humanity alone in the woods. And Vision proves his wisdom. He proves his wisdom in such a way that is so profound. He's the first character that comes along that makes you really think about the grand effects of the Avengers in the MCU. And then you get him later in WandaVision. And yes, it's not the real Vision for most of it, but he is made as a copy of Vision, a perfect recreation. And he's smart enough as a copy to learn he's a copy, to understand what he is, and to understand why he was created out of Wanda's grief and love. A character who is that intelligent but still cares about someone like Wanda who's leading herself on a path of self-destruct, and cares to not only agree with Ultron but empathize with him even though he knows he has to destroy him and his view is wrong. And just absent-mindedly will lift Thor's hammer to hand it to him out of kindness. That character proves the depth that it possesses and the great things that he could have done.
All right. I like it. Final question. This has been a fantastic bloodbath, by the way. You should both be very proud of these answers. And Megan, fantastic debut performance. But we still have one more question to go. And we usually like to ask this question on EIF. I believe we asked this for one of the Star Wars ones or something. So, we're taking Phase 2 in its entirety. And we have 6 movies. But I want you to think of and pitch me a 7th. Add a movie to Phase 2.
Add a movie.
And this does not mean take a movie from Phase 3 and put it in Phase 2 instead. Make a brand new movie that we don't have and insert it in Phase 2.
Add a movie to Phase 2. We have Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers of Ultron, Ant-Man. I think if I were to fit any movie into Phase 2, taking a character, I would want to see an Adam Warlock movie as the final film.
Okay. Megan?
This is a hard one. I honestly think I would want maybe a Black Widow and Hawkeye duo movie.
Ooh, okay. I'll let you know. I have my answer, but I won't say it now. All right, so we have a Adam Warlock movie, and we have a Black Widow Hawkeye movie. All right, Sean, whenever you're ready, take it away.
So, the whole thing with Marvel, what they like to do on the ends of their phases is they like to include something that leads forward, something that hints to the future, something that belonged almost like it felt like it should have been made towards the end, but you're seeing it now, and you question why you see it now. And I don't think I'm alone when I say that I want a Warlock movie. And Adam Warlock is a powerhouse of a Marvel character. For those who have no clue who Adam Warlock is a artificial human that was created by a group called the Enclave, and their goal was to create the perfect human being, the future of human evolution. And they ended up creating a being that was so much more powerful than they expected that he just escaped. And upon escaping, went to Asgard. He encountered Thor. He almost was seduced by the darker powers of Asgard until Thor was able to stop him, nearly destroy him, and then as he regenerated, because that's the power he had, Thor was able to convince him to be a better individual, to be a good force in the universe. He not only became an ally of Thor, an ally of Asgard, he also carried the Soul Gem for a period of time as a guardian of it. He was Earth's champion for a period of time. He stopped the Magus, which is another kind of Dormammu level character that served Thanos, which that would have been a nice Phase 3 add-on movie. Warlock becomes this individual capable of standing toe-to-toe with Thanos, and I think that Warlock would have been maybe a bit of a better character to see as the addition of, this is someone who's powerful, who could box with Thanos, versus seeing, Captain Marvel do it. Because Captain Marvel never does it in the comics. Warlock is the movie that we should have gotten, and I want to put it in Phase 2 because it would give us the expectations leaning forward.
Alrighty. I like that. Megan, you have a Black Widow and Hawkeye movie. Go for it.
So obviously in Age of Ultron, we got a glimpse of Hawkeye's life. He has a wife, kids, a farm in the middle of nowhere. We also get a glimpse into Natasha's past, and we get to see where she talks about the Red Room and where they, made it so she can't have kids, and how it also when Wanda goes into her mind and she's back in the Red Room and they're showing her all of this. And if we go back to Avengers, when they do the little, this is like Budapest all over again, and you get these little glimpses into their life, but you don't really get to know them as much as you could if they had a movie. And you obviously, they're kind of buddy, they're friends, they started in Shield together and such, or I think it was Hawkeye found Black Widow. I don't quite remember what it was, but it would be just such a nice way to, have their characters be a little stronger, get to know them a little more. I mean, we've got 3 Iron Man movies, we've gotten 2 Captain America movies. We also, in The Winter Soldier, got a better glimpse of Natasha's character and how she works. But it just wasn't, it wasn't her movie, it wasn't enough. And so if you just give them, even one movie, it just to further their character, give them more depth, see how they are, what they're like, and how, stuff like Age of Ultron and how the Battle of Sokovia and the Battle of New York is affecting them, as we get to see all the other characters have to deal with this. It would just be, I think it would work really well.
Really, really good answers all around. All right. That concludes Bloodbath. Great job.
Fantastic debates. Good questions as well.
Thank you. Yes, these will be posted the Monday after this episode's release, 1 per day, and I will be keeping tally as to who is winning each one. It is 1st to 4. Obviously, it's best of 7 series. Great job to both of you. Before we go, we do want to quickly just rattle off a ranking list of these 6 movies that we just spent a lot of time talking about. Megan, if you want to start as our guest, if you're ready, you can just rattle off your list from 6 to 1.
Yes, so 6 being the best or 6 being the worst?
6 being your least favorite.
6 being okay. So obviously 6 is Thor: The Dark World. That's a no-brainer. 5 is going to have to be, I want to say Ant-Man. It wasn't bad, but there just wasn't that much to it. We got Scott Lang, and that was nice. That's about it. After that, I will go Iron Man 3. Also a good movie. Also didn't do too much. It was just another Iron Man movie. Then Avengers: Age of Ultron, Guardians of the Galaxy, and number 1, Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Very, very nice. I'll read off mine next. It's very similar, actually. I also have Thor: The Dark World in last place. Yeah, we've pretty much covered it already. 5, Ant-Man. Better than Thor: The Dark World, but still kind of not a movie that sticks with you. Number 4, this is where our lists vary. Number 4, I have Age of Ultron, and 3, I have Iron Man 3. I like Iron Man 3 a bit more than Ultron, because Iron Man 3, I feel like, is a much more cohesive movie. And even though Age of Ultron has all the action sequences, I think at its core, Iron Man 3 has more to say, and it executes on a higher level. 2, I also have Guardians, and 1, I also have Winter Soldier. Those 2 movies, man. 2014. What a great year for the MCU. But yeah, that's my list. Sean, take us home.
My list comes in the form of Thor: The Dark World being last, of course. from Thor: The Dark World, I'm going to put Iron Man 3 there. Above that, I'm going to put Captain America: Winter Soldier. I'm then
Whoa!
What?
Wow, at number 4. Holy crap.
4? Sean, that hurt. Oh, that
I
hurt.
like it. I like this film. It's just I'm just saying.
No.
All right.
Wow. Oh, the first real shocker of the MCU trilogy that we're doing here. Because last episode, Sean and I's lists were practically identical. That's
Yeah.
like the first big shakeup. Wow.
I like this movie, but I just like the other 3 more.
Damn,
Like
all right.
in this lineup, I like the other 3.
Okay. No, your opinion is valid. So it's your opinion.
But yeah, so 4 is Winter Soldier, 3 is Ant-Man, 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy, and 1 is Age of Ultron.
Wow. You really like Age of Ultron?
I do like Age of Ultron. I will say, like, in the grander scope of the MCU, I think I like Guardians of the Galaxy more. But in terms of just putting these 6 on what I liked going through them, I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy at second. I'm going to put Age of Ultron above it.
Alrighty, very good. Well, that concludes our Phase 2 episode. We hope you enjoyed listening. Megan, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much. I had a lot of fun. This was very nice to me. And just remember, no matter how crazy life gets, everything is fine.